Okay, so this is actually the 747th attempt at the fire signs of 1 Kings 18 in circumstances where there are 747 more false prophets than true prophets in the account. 850 false prophets, 450 of Baal, 400 of Asherah, 1 Kings 18, and 100 of Jehovah, plus Elijah, plus his attendant, plus Obadiah. And the account does say, well, Elijah says to the prophets of Baal, you go first because you're the majority. And the majority that they have over the prophets of Jehovah is 450 minus 103, which is 347, which is the number of days between the fall of the Watchtower, when its Jehovah's Witnesses all became prophets of Baal rather than prophets of God. You're a prophet of God in a true church. You're a prophet of the administration of the church when you're in a false church. And Baal means master or lord or boss. So they're all following men, and they were from 2005 to 2014. And 347 days after that was ER1 2006, and that's when I faxed them my first prediction. And I am to make 747 in that's the majority of the false prophets over the true prophets, which appears to stand for the number of false prophecies that the number of times I get it wrong. I mean, when I say we've done 747, I've counted 747, but that includes 6 volcanic prophecies from 2 Kings 1, and it excludes 2 or 3 that I forgot to write up, and a few sub predictions. And so there's probably half a dozen that I should have included that I didn't, and half a dozen volcanic predictions of 2 Kings 1 that I did include that I shouldn't. But however you look at it, we are, as far as I can determine, there. But what concerns, and this is the prediction. It's for okay, I guess I should make it the purpose of this video. It's for 2023 AB 5 to 7 and 2023 AB 12 to 14. AB 5 to 7 is July 24 to 27. Today is July 20, I don't know what, 5th or 6th. What is it? This is 26th, Wednesday, yeah. And the third fire sign is July 31 to August 3, which is AB 12 to 14. And the way we get to them is that Elijah went up to the top of the mountain of Isaac, Zoar, which is the latest incarnation of Zoar. When you return to the non-Adamic Edenic condition, you stop aging, you have to go up through all the gears of the covenants that get you to that position. So you first become a non-Adamic son of Abraham, then you become a non-Adamic son of Isaac, if you are water baptized. Then you become a non-Adamic son of Methuselah when you get into the ark. If you're not water baptized, you go through Abraham, and then you go to Melchizedek when you get into the ark. But both Methuselah and Melchizedek were non-Adamic, and they didn't age at all. They died at 962 and Melchizedek was Jared in his first incarnation, the father of Enoch, the father of Methuselah, father of Lamech, father of Noah. So the maximum age for an Adamic person was 960 years. Jared lived 962 and Methuselah lived 969. They were both therefore non-Adamic. So when they died, they didn't die of old age. They died sacrificially in validation of a covenant. And so that's how one becomes non-Adamic. And this church, as a church, became non-Adamic Abrahamic in 2012 on Sivan 14. And we, at the end of the 2:1 temple ratio prophecy, and which was also the end of the of understanding 108, and it was also the end of the 6,000 years of Adam's priesthood from the 50th month after his sin, which was 3989 Sivan 7, the Pentecost, and then 6,000 years after that is 2012 Sivan 7 it would be. But the Passover was Sivan 14, the Zoa Passover. So we were then appointed over the two NCs as Abrahamic Zoa, and then we were converted on Chislev the 14th, 2015 to Isaiah from Abrahamic, and we were installed over the two NCs on 2016 Sivan 21, a very late 2NC Pentecost. And we didn't have a prediction at the time. Oh, well, sorry, we did have a main prediction at the time, sorry, which went from 2016 ER6 to 2016 Tammuz 14. It had sub-prediction up to Tammuz 11, which is what we used for our previous mistaken, and it was the 488th main prediction. And now our 489th main prediction goes actually from the end of the main prediction that we had at the time, that we were appointed that Elijah went to the top of Carmel. Carmel means garden land, and the top of a mountain stands for administration because it has oversight over the land. So going to the top of Mount Carmel means going to the start or the maximum authority of an administration of the kingdom in some sense. So a true church administration is one version of it, especially a true non-Adamic church like Zoa, and the actual kingdom of God is the other version. So the second fire sign, we used the Zoa mountain, and I got to the top of that on 2016 Sivan 21. I said to my attendant, go up, look in direction of the sea for bomb, for fire signs. And there was nothing with that attempt, which ended on Tammuz 14. And therefore the no-show, it would seem to be wrong on Tammuz 15. And so you then go back 7 times, according to the instructions of Elijah to his attendant, and you end up in 2023 Tammuz 14 or 15. And then you count the 21, you go forward the 21-day sentence count of the statement, and it came about in the 7th that he got to say, look, there's a small cloud like a man's palm rising above the sea. So it's a man-made mushroom cloud, and it's rising up above the seawater. That counts as 3 times, but it happened for a man-made cloud like a man's palm. It's a cloud like a man's palm, concave or convex, depending on which way you look at it, rising above the sea counts as 3 times, because it's a cloud that's like something else, that's 2. When it's rising above the sea, that's 3, because it's above it. So which is an addition. So and it's all happening in the 7th time, so that's times 7. So it's 3 times 7 is 21. So you add that to the Tammuz 14, 15, and you end up at Ab 5, 6. And so we're going for Ab 5, 6, 7, because it then says, and it came about on the 7th that the attendant got to say there's a cloud like a man's palm. So it's got to be the 7th, some 7th of some sort. Ab 5th wasn't a 7th of any sort. Ab 6th was the what it is today, and it is the 6th. Sorry, yeah, the 6th Sabbath of late 2NC weeks from Tammuz 2, and it's the 4th Sabbath of late Zoa weeks from Tammuz 16. And Ab 7 is, of course, the 7th. It's the 7th day of Ab. So that's the second fire sign. And the third fire sign, we go to Jesus, who goes up and is installed as Caesar to Isaac on Tammuz 5. He's now Caesar to all mankind, as far as we can determine. I can prove it with any number of scriptures. I cannot prove it with a physical event until I get a fire sign or something else that proves it, but I can't prove it physically, I'm sorry. If I could, I would instruct everybody to stop paying personal tax, because you're supposed to pay Caesar's things to Caesar. And if Caesar is no longer the government, but is in fact Jesus, you should stop paying personal tax to the government. I mean, Jesus is not Caesar of corporations, but he will be the Caesar. He is, I believe, Caesar of men, but I cannot physically prove it. But this sign may prove it today, if we've got this correct. And I don't like waiting for a sign. It's not a good idea. Nonetheless, don't want to give false advice. Got it wrong 747 times. I think I need to have a bit of a confirmation before I put before I ask people to do something like that. So I don't ask it at the moment. So although I do think he's Caesar. I guess we find out soon enough. And so he became Caesar then. And we then, so that's the mountain. And of course, we all went up that mountain with him, in the sense that we're under his administration now. We arrived there temporarily. We arrived there chronologically. He arrived there authoritatively. But we're there as well, because he's now our Caesar. And so then the predictions I've had since then, the last one failed on AB5 yesterday. And so you then go back 7 times from that to AB12 or to AB13 if you say that you don't declare it's failed until AB6, the first nanosecond of today. And that takes you to AB12, 13, and then you go to a 7th honor after that, and AB13 is the AB13 is the 6th Sabbath of 2NC weeks, and the 4th Sabbath, late 2NC weeks of the Sivan 1 secular year, honouring Jesus becoming Caesar in Sivan, which incidentally he has to, because we became non-Adamic in Abrahamic in Sivan, so he becomes Caesar to Abraham in Sivan, because then the secular and the sacred year, honouring those two events, are coincident, which they must be, because Jesus is now a God. He's not divided against himself. The secular and the sacred must be the same, just as they were in 1513, when the secular year, which had been a Tishri 1 Adamic year, became a Nisan 1 fallen Adamic year, or ARC year, or year of the world, because God became Caesar to Israel in Nisan 1513, and Jesus became Caesar to Adam in Nisan 3993 BC. So because of that, that's why I'm sure that Jesus was Caesar to Abraham, installed on Sivan 5, and to Isaac, which is the water baptized, on Tammuz 5, which means he should rapture us. We're being delayed in that regard, presumably by me not getting the date right, because I've got a job to do before I can be raptured. And we don't get raptured until there's the cloud of the second fire sign, because as the scripture says, we go up to meet the Lord in the air, we're caught away in the clouds. So there's no clouds, we're not going up. And also he said to the attendant, go up, look in direction of the sea. He did not say come up, which indicates that he himself is not up or in a position to look, and you have to be in the ark to be in that position. But the other thing that nails it categorically really is that it was Caesar Augustus who did the registration in Luke 2. And the greater registration will occur in August, which is the prophetic import of his name. And as I've mentioned before, that one of the apostles in this church had a dream about August for World War III and the fire signs, so which he will see from the ark in that month. So I do think that Jesus is now Caesar, which is brilliant. But I have no sign to demonstrate that that's true. All I have is a load of calculations which people don't appear to have much interest in, although they should. There is no more important academic subject than understanding the manual of mankind. But you won't hear that statement very often in many universities, regrettably. But that doesn't matter, because we have to be each person a one-man university and a one-man church sometimes too. So the failure was AB 5. So you go to AB 12, 13. So it's going back 7 times. Then you go to the 7th after that, which, as I said, AB 13 is the 6th Sabbath of late 2 NC weeks of the Sivan 1 year, and it's the 4th Sabbath of late Zoa weeks of late Zoa weeks from Tammuz 16, and therefore the AB 6 today is the 5th Sabbath of late 2 NC weeks and the 5th Sabbath of late, and the 3rd Sabbath of late Zoa weeks. Because Tammuz 16 is when it's first fruits for late Zoa weeks, and then the Sabbaths are 22, 29, and 6, and Tammuz 2 is first fruits for late 2 NC weeks of the Sivan 1 year. Sivan 2 is first fruits for 2 NC weeks, and so then the Sabbaths would be 8, 15, 22, 29, 6 and 13 from there, the first 6. So really we expect the second fire sign to be AB 6 and the third to be AB 13, but we're going for AB 5 to 7 and AB 12 to 14 to take account of time zones, 7th Sabbath, well, no, not really 7th Sabbath, time zones, and the fact that AB 7 is obviously a 7th. So those are the predictions. But the thing that's confusing me, there's always one thing that confuses me, but normally not for long, is that there's 850 false prophets in this account and 103 true prophets. And one would expect that to mean that there's 850 false prophecies that are made, not 747. I know the account says, Elijah says, you're the majority, you go first because you're the majority. So the account itself introduces the concept of the majority of true prophets over false. I'm just going to, sorry, I've got to turn my dinner off. So it would seem to me that there should be 850 false prophecies, a false prophecy for a false prophet. But then you've got 103 true prophets who don't stand for 103 true prophecies, for goodness sake, because you only have to, there's only 2 fire signs. So you only need 2 true prophecies to get that right. But they must stand, those ones, for 103 days of being accepted as a true prophet, which would run from AB 6 to Elul Tishri Heshvan 6 plus 13 Heshvan 19. No, they run from AB 5 when we made the present prediction for AB 5 to 7 and AB 12 to 14 to Heshvan 17 inclusively, which is the day when the Laodiceans, our prophets of Baal who we're competing against, go through the Sohar into heaven and therefore aren't down here watching any more contest and well, they've gone. So I guess that's a proof that I got it right on AB 5. I should get it right on AB 5. It's the Pentecost. And incidentally, we're in the point in the Exodus. The Exodus began, the greater Exodus out of the greater Egypt of this world, began with the Abrahamic world Exodus Passover on Sivan 14. It follows the calendar of the Sivan 1 Zoa year, Abrahamic year, not the Nisan 1 Adamic year, because Adam isn't escaping. It's Abraham who's escaping. And so everything is delayed 2 months compared to 1513 Nisan 14, when the Passover was out of Egypt. And then in ER 14, they reached Elim and had a late Passover. And then on Sivan 7, they reached, well, Sivan 3, they reached the base of Mount Sinai, and Moses went up it on Sivan 6 and got the law, and they agreed to it. And on Sivan 7, he made the sacrifice, and they were under law. And so today we're on AB 6, so we're the equivalent of Sivan 6. So AB 5 was the Zoa Pentecost, however, because the Zoa Pentecost is on the 5th of the month, whereas the 1NC Pentecost is on whenever the first day of the week is in cakes or after cakes. So if it's the 22nd. So it doesn't quite work the same way, but it's the same concept. Moses should go up the mountain, and I wouldn't reach the top of the mountain until I've finished. And Moses is actually the administration of a true church, which is the ministration of the Lord's witnesses. So we don't get to the top of the mountain until we've baptized the whole mountain. I mean, we meet them all, but they don't form an administration, which is a mountain, until we get there. I mean, there is an administration in the ark, and I can go up to that. We can go up to that at the rapture, which we believe is AB 7, which is tomorrow, which would be the exact equivalent of the day when Moses had the Pentecost, the Pentecost back in 1513, but it's not a Pentecost for us. But that's, I believe, when we do get raptured. But we don't really get to the top of the mountain until Elul 5, when we finish baptizing the 2NCs and finish building Solomon's temple out of the 2NC kings. We still then have to build it out of the Lords, which takes another 14 days. So this is all wonderful, but I still don't understand why there are 850 false prophets. Well, we've got 103 true prophets, and they stand a day for being accepted as a true prophet. So perhaps you can argue there's 103 days also when the prophets of Baal, the false prophets, do accept that Elijah's won the contest and won it on AB 5 by making the correct prediction. So you could split, which I don't like doing at all, the 850 prophets into 747 standing for a false prophecy for a false prophet, and then 103, which is a day of a false prophet accepting Elijah as a true prophet. I think, and I'll return to the video. Yeah, maybe what it is there's 747 days when I make a false prophecy. And then there's an extra 103 days when I make a true prophecy. But it isn't accepted by the false prophets of Baal. So in other words, it's 850 days of prophets not accepting my prophecies. 747 of them being when I make a false prophecy, and therefore, but actually, it's a very interesting interpretation, because what it's saying is they should have accepted my false ones, which I said all along. My false prophecies aren't false prophecies in the sense that I falsely claim to be inspired by God and say he's directly told me through, subconscious communication that I'm inspired to definitely tell you that he says there'll be a bomb next Tuesday. I've never said that. I'm just an imperfect interpreter of the perfect words of God, and that's what we all are. And when you make an imperfect interpretation, it's not necessarily correct. By definition, it isn't correct. But it's the best you can do, and if you keep at it, you keep knocking, you keep seeking, you keep on asking, you will be answered, it will be opened, and you will find. In other words, you'll get the correct interpretation. And this whole exercise has been this whole prophetic dance has been an exercise in practical demonstration of Jesus's promise and my faith in it. And I've always argued that every mistake I've made has been the best thing I've done in my life, not because I'm famous for making a disaster sound brilliant, but because I actually honestly believe that. Because if I was so clever that I could have worked it out on iteration number one, it would have been not a demonstration of my faith at all. It would have been a demonstration on how clear thinking I was, which is nice, but doesn't get you saved. What gets you saved is faith. And by continuing to make these predictions when I keep getting them wrong and I can't see where I'm going, is walking by faith. And that's why I'm proud of it. And I think everybody should have accepted that on day one. They should have said, yeah, this guy's just trying to understand the Bible. What's wrong with that? We're supposed to be international Bible students. That's what we do, isn't it? That's the first law, isn't it? Okay, he didn't get it right first time. So what? He keeps trying. That's what the scripture means. So I guess there's no difference. It's so I really do like this interpretation. It's saying there's no difference at all in rejecting me because I've made an incorrect attempt at getting a date right, or rejecting me when I've absolutely got it right. But the argument will then be, oh well, even a broken clock can be right twice a day. That doesn't prove anything. If I had 747 attempts, I'm sure I could have guessed when the nuclear bomb would be, or sorry, when the fire sign would be. It's not going to be nuclear. Well, it's not going to be, it might be a dirty bomb, I suppose, but it's not going to be a conventional nuclear weapon, because that doesn't happen until the fourth horseman of the apocalypse rides, and we haven't even got the second yet. We got the first. First is riding. Well, he's done his ride. There are two first horsemen and two second horsemen. I'm the second of the first horsemen. And Obama, Biden is the first of the second. Anyway, so yes, what should have happened? It's just as bad to reject me because I'm just trying to, what amazes me, people are perfectly happy to use Microsoft Windows. It took 7,000 iterations till they got the build for Windows 7. No one says, my God, he made so many mistakes in making this, 6,999 of them. Why would I want to use this software? But I haven't made it. I've only made 747. I'm an amateur compared with Microsoft in this regard, in making mistakes. And there's no difference between encoding or decoding. In fact, decoding is far more complicated. Reverse engineering is much more difficult than engineering. So, and that's what I've been trying to do. And if I if I'm managing it at 747, it's absolutely brilliant. And there's nobody else on the pitch anyway. And so that's what upsets me. And that's what I think that's what the interpretation should be. It's the number of days when either I make a false prophecy or I have a true prophecy, but I'm not accepted. And so it's a number of days of people rejecting the work of God's true prophets, which these days are not people who, like primary school, who just recite a dictation they've been given, you know, by angels directly in some kind of subconscious inspirational way. No, we use our heads. We're like in the secondary school where we actually have to interpret what the words mean rather than just read them from a piece of paper. So that's what I've been doing. I think it's a great interpretation, and is just as idolatrous and as false worship and as disrespectful to God and his laws to reject a prophet who's trying to get it right, as it is to reject a prophet who has got it right. And of course they'll reject me when I do get it right, because they're just trying to reject me. Not all of them, but the wicked ones, the seed of the serpent. They just don't want this to happen, because all they care about is how much power can I have, and they believe that by giving power to God, it makes them less powerful. They couldn't be more wrong. Couldn't be more wrong, but that's what they falsely believe. All right, so that now I think I understand myself, which I'm pleased about. The 850 false prophets, 103 days of being rejected, even though I got it right, and 747 days of making a prophecy that was wrong. All right, so may God bless your path to divinity, your inexorable path to divinity, powered by the love of God for you and by the love God put in your heart, which you will express for your brother and for him more and more as time goes on. Amen.